So I wake up this morning to Jackson saying, "Hey, mommy, what is this?" And as soon as he went like this, I instantly knew what it was, that it was a tick. Now, in all my years of growing up, literally in the woods, climbing trees, running through the woods, I've spent lots of time in the woods, camping, fishing, whatever. I don't ever remember having a tick. Now, there was one time I was visiting a friend in Cape Cod, and my dog got a tick in his ear, and my attempt to remove it was so bad. I was so freaked out. I kept screaming, and my friend couldn't hold my dog still. He's a big German Shepherd. So I found a nearby vet and took him there to have them remove it because I just couldn't freaking do it. Ooh. But now it's my kid, and I know damn well if he knew what was on him at the time that he would have lost his shit. So I was like internally losing my shit, and I jumped up and I went and got some gloves and I got some tweezers and I said, "Oh, it's just a boo-boo, but I have to fix it. Just hold on." And so I fucking plucked it out, and I looked around. The only thing I had to put it in was like a plastic baggie, Ziploc bag. So I did that. Like, I plucked it out and I put it. I couldn't believe that I did that. Ugh. So anyways, I call walk-in care. It's a Sunday. So I call the walk-in care, and she tells me, yes, bring the tick in. They'll send it out for testing, blah, blah, blah. So my son has been sick over the weekend, and I know damn well he's had a fever, because I know my son when he has a fever. He's not just warm. He's not just hot. Like, he's burning up, and he won't get out of bed. Because I tell you, the second he starts feeling better, it doesn't matter if he's still sick. He's up and about, and he's playing, and he's snacking. But when he has a fever, that's the only time he's kept down, and he doesn't want to move, doesn't want to get out of bed. He's completely burning up and sweating, but he's also like cold, and has a loss of appetite. He doesn't even want snacks. So my son has been that way. I mean, all of yesterday. He said he started feeling sick Friday night, but he didn't tell me then. But he was definitely sick all yesterday and was in bed. And I knew he had a fever. I didn't need to take his temperature. I just freaking know for sure. And this morning, too, to get him to go into walk-in care, like, he did not want to get out of bed. And I know that feeling when you're really sick. So I gave him Tylenol so that he would be more comfortable and would get up and get dressed and go to walk-in care. So the good news is the doctor comes in and looks at the tick and says that it's a dog tick and not a deer tick, and that dog ticks don't carry Lyme disease or any serious illnesses that we need to worry about. So blah, 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 no big deal. So I'm like, oh, thank God, that's great news. But then he says, like, oh, things to look out for that you need to be concerned about and look out for are fever and or rash. And I said, oh, well, he's had a fever all weekend. And he raises an eyebrow at me and says, well, did you take his temperature? And I explained, no, but, he was burning up. And he looks at me and shakes his head and is like, no, that doesn't necessarily mean that he had a fever. So then at this point, he gets really fucking condescending and is, making me feel like a fucking idiot. But again, I said, I know he had a fever, blah, blah, blah. And, this is why. And he says, well, he doesn't have a fever here. And I said, yeah, I know, because I gave him Tylenol just before we came. So then again, condescending and raising the brows, and it's almost like he's holding back a laugh. He's like, well, even so, if he did, it would have nothing to do with this tick, I assure you, because this tick doesn't have Lyme or any illnesses like that. So I assure you, if he had a fever, it had nothing to do with this tick right here. Which, okay, fair enough. But he did just say, look out for a fever or rash. And literally, like, this tick was big. My son has very bushy hair. You know, I've been planning on getting it cut and just, you know, haven't got around to it yet. But it was hidden like it, you know, under his hair in the back of his ear, and it was fat. So it had, like, it was very clear that it had been there for days at least. And so my son started feeling sick Friday night. So it's likely that, you know, his fever came after the tick bite. But again, if he's saying that the fever has nothing to do with this particular tick, then okay, great. But then he proceeds to tell me that if we were outside or he was outside, whatever, and he got that tick, that it's possible and even likely that there could have been other ticks, and that a lot of them are really tiny. And it's possible that a deer tick might have gotten on him, fed, and dropped off, or went undetected, you know, still, and that could, you know, carry Lyme or whatever else. So he's sitting there telling me it's possible, even likely, that there could have been other ticks, and there might have been a deer tick that had gotten on him that we don't know about. And then proceeds to say, just look, you need to look out for fever or rash. I literally, before I went in, I called and I said, you know, I'm concerned because not only did I find a tick, but he's been sick and he has a fever. And then when we got there at registration, I told them, found a tick, he has a fever. And then the nurse, before the doctor came in, told them, he's had a fever, he's been sick all weekend. And they're telling me to look out for a fever, but completely fucking dismissing the fact that I'm reporting that he had a fever. And, you know, at the end of the day, I get that it might not be a big deal. It might not be anything. But it really fucking pisses me off when professionals are so fucking condescending to people and dismiss what they report and shit. Especially when it's very reasonable concerns. And then, of course, after I left there, I looked up dog tick, and it says that dog ticks can carry diseases, not Lyme, but other serious illnesses and diseases, and to look out for unexplained fever or rash. I'm just going to let it go. My son's feeling better, thank God. That's all I care about. But wow, I'm really, really frustrated with that whole situation. I felt really shitty with that doctor's fucking tone and attitude towards me. So from now on, next time that I know my son has a fever, I'm going to take his temperature and I'll take a picture just in case I end up in a situation like this. Also, don't give your kids Tylenol to make them more comfortable before you bring them into the doctor, because then the doctor won't believe you that they had a fever. Even when you tell them that you just gave your child a fever reducer to make them comfortable because they were very sick and wouldn't get out of bed to come there.